What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about a growing concern that I have with physical games. Now, there's a lot to be concerned about, and we've talked about that across all of my channels, right? We've talked about digital versus physical and game preservation, all that stuff. But I thought, there was something I specifically wanted to talk about with Lollipop Chainsaw, kind of vent. But then actually, when I'm recording this, I just saw a post on Dead Rising, and I didn't even know that Dead Rising is doing a somewhat similar thing. And so to get what I'm talking about specifically, it's separating the digital from the physical releases. Now, we've gone into metrics, and again, we've talked about the game preservation angle. One thing that I think would help sell more physical games is if they went back to releasing them the same day as the digital ones. Now, okay, granted, a lot of these games do it. And even though the digital sales are, skewing to like 60, 70, 80%, right? Depending on the company. I think PlayStation just announced their numbers. I think it was hovering in the 70 kind of percent range, but actually over the last little while, 80% of PlayStation games, I think it could be exclusives, but maybe it also just means like games played on PlayStation are digital. Capcom has talked about it. Now, Capcom has actually, not really surprised because they are saying a lot of the right things. Capcom said that no matter how little the physical sales are part of their revenue, they're still going to support the physical. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Nobody else is really saying something like that, right? So again, most games, most companies are doing it, but you are seeing a trend, right? Like, we've already gotten to the point where collector's editions, the God of Wars of the world, etc., right? Collector's editions comes with all these fancy statues and all this exclusive stuff. And hey, I like a good collector's edition, okay? I absolutely do. But I do also like it when it would come, say, with like a steel book, right? Or like a case. And you open it, and what's inside? The disc. The disc that has the full game. And all of this connects, right? The disc that has the full game. Nowadays, you don't even get the disc, right? If you get a collector, I think God of War did it, but there's actually a shockingly high amount of collector's editions that if they have the game with it, the game will come and it'll just be like the slip and you download the code. And that's alarming. Again, like you wonder why. There's a lot of reasons why, but this certainly doesn't help, right? Like, come with the game. You're seeing games, actually for quite a while, even Nintendo, that part of the game comes on the cartridge, right? So something like the Batman Arkham, I think, collection on the Nintendo Switch. Well, like 2 of the games are there, but the third one you got to download. Some PlayStation games have done that with collections as well, where the full game is not on the disc. So these are all, by the way, right? These are things we've seen kind of leading into it. Now, what we've seen more recently, and again, what I kind of wanted to vent about a little bit with Lollipop Chainsaw that kind of completes the arc here. So Lollipop Chainsaw, if you don't know, right, was this kind of cult classic type game that came out back in the PS3 360 era. Now, I like the game. I know many people do not like the game, and I do think it is considered a cult classic. What you might know about Lollipop Chainsaw nowadays, in terms of the preservation, the physical side of it, the game's expensive. The game is, hard in the sense that you can get it. Go to eBay, go to Mercari, go to some of these sites, you'll see it, right? It's not inaccessible, but you have to play it on the last gen. And also the prices are kind of insane. They're $60, $70, $80. We've seen it with like the Deadpool game, X-Men Origins, Wolverine. There's a long list of PS3 360 era games that are like way too high, right? Kind of rendering them inaccessible. Even though they're there, people have them, but when you sell them for $100, $150, it's not so accessible anymore. So why is that important? Well, you got to follow. Yeah, I like to rant. I like to kind of go all over the place. You got to stick with me. Lollipop Chainsaw comes from a place of that, right? It's hard to get. I don't even know. I want it, but at the same time, do I really want to spend $70 for that PS3 version of Lollipop Chainsaw when it is getting a remaster in September? Okay. So we roll around to the game's coming out digitally in September. In fact, the release date was moved up 2 weeks, so I believe it's September 12th, right? However, if you want it physically, it's through limited run. So that's another just messy thing in general. They're not even doing it themselves. They got like a third-party thing to do it. Now, limited run, some people like it, some people hate it. It's kind of like a skewed, opinion on them. But I will say, in terms of like keeping these things around, they're one of, if not the only ones that do it. So I gotta give them some respect in the sense that if they weren't around, would a Lollipop Chainsaw even get a physical release? The answer is honestly probably not. And that sucks, and that really should be fixed, by the way. We shouldn't have to rely on limited run, but that's aside. Okay, so the game's coming out on limited run. Well, little did I know, right? I go on and I say, this is a game that I just said, right? It's hard to get on last gen. So now that it's coming back out, and now that it's coming out as a remaster, I think I want to get it physically. I feel like physical would be the right idea because of everything that I've said, right? So I go on, and I think it's like $50, $45, not too terrible. But the game comes out anywhere between December 1st and December 31st of this year. So months and months, 3 months actually, after the game comes out digitally. And I saw this a couple weeks ago, I think maybe like 2 weeks ago, because you could pre-order. I think you could still pre-order the game on limited run even right now. And I've just been sitting here in a weird kind of limbo where it's like, what do I do? Now, this does, I think, depend on the person that you are, right? So, like, from my perspective, I make videos. I also want to play these games when they come out. So it's kind of, but like, I want to play them when they come out to make videos for the channels, but I also just want to get them when they come out. Like, there's those two different parts to me. Some people don't care. Some people a game can come out, they can get it 6 months later. That fear of missing out, which I don't really think, I wouldn't explain my own situation like that, but I do want to play the games right away. But those people, right, if you're in that situation, you don't care. So I just want to throw it out there where I understand that, like, maybe this impacts me more than it impacts other people. However, the game preservationist and keeping physical games around, I think it all still applies, right? It's not helpful when Lollipop Chainsaw comes out in 1 month from now, right? Comes out, but you can only get it digitally. If you want it physically and you want to support them, you have to wait 3 more months to get that game. It's hurting you. Unless, of course, you want to buy it twice, which I don't know why you'd want to do. I don't know why I would want to do that. The answer is I will not do that, right? Maybe some people, even bigger than me, let's say, right? A different kind of content creation, maybe they would take that plunge. I'm not going to do that, right? So it puts me in a situation where, what do? Well, you either get it digitally, and then can you even say, well, I'll get it physically on a discount later on? It's a limited run. There's only so many copies. You know what I mean? The units will probably just get more expensive, and it's coming from a place where the history of this game is already expensive. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, I don't really think it's going to go down, even if the remaster is bad. I think it'll be at the lowest, the base price. And I think over time, it'll only go up. I actually think it's kind of a worthy investment, by the way, to get it, because maybe that game will be worth $80, $90 in 2, 3, 4 years. Might be a good thing to have to sell on a rainy day if you're looking for $100 cash, right? So you know what I mean? And that's something I kind of wanted to vent about. From that perspective, as well as, like, how does that help the game? Like, you're separating. First, you're putting it as a limited run thing, so there's literally only so many of them. And second, which I guess maybe every game has that, but this one's even more, right? And then secondly, you're separating it so much from the base release that you're almost forcing people. And I think this could be what they're doing, right? I like conspiracies. We'll throw it out there. Aren't you forcing people to kind of get it digitally by doing this? If you put physical and digital, and you know that most people don't do physical anymore, right? Okay, you just have that. Now, release the digital first. Release physical months after digital, and watch as those numbers go down, because, like, the percentage, right? If it's 80-20, watch it be 90-10 because you made that call. It's a smart move if you want people to buy digital, isn't it? Now, I don't know. Is it a grand conspiracy, or is it just something that organically has happened? I think it is honestly something that's organically happened, that's just kind of worked out for the powers that be that want to have people buy it digitally, right? It's just kind of all worked out that way. So I do get it. It's just annoying. And then, that I wanted to do something on that. I didn't really know how to make a video. I kind of want, at this point, it's kind of like a overarching, kind of theme, because I didn't even know this, and I follow games as a pretty big part of, like, my day-to-day, right? Dead Rising is actually doing the same thing. So Dead Rising comes out also in September, I think like a week after, maybe like September 18th, 19th, mid-September, right? Right before Epic Mickey and right after Lollipop Chainsaw. It's actually like a gauntlet of remasters and remakes of kind of these cult classic type games. Dead Rising is a little bit bigger. And so Dead Rising is also only digital. When it comes out in September, it's only digital. The physical release, would you like to guess what? November. I think it's a date. It might be like November 5th. Honestly, doesn't matter. It's about a month and a half to 2 months after the digital. So now it's becoming you know what I mean? At first it was, okay, I kind of want to vent about Lollipop. I think I did a tweet on it, right? Let's get my word out there to those that care, but there's not much you can do. Okay, now you're kind of making me mad, right? Because now it's kind of, you're doing it with every game. And what have we learned? You know, like I said in the beginning of this video, like, they're all trends. Like, collector's editions used to come with games. And again, like, it's not to harp on the point. It's to prove a point. It's to show that, you know, if you do this a couple times, if a couple companies do this, all of a sudden it becomes a thing, right? As soon as, okay, well, one game does a collector's edition where there's no physical game, that's annoying. We go after them. We demand that that's not the way it is. They take the blow, the blow back, they suck it up, and then, like, everybody else falls in line and they all do it. And now it's just normal. Now you spend $250 to $300 on a collector's edition that might be good, might be bad. There's some bad ones out there as well. And the game doesn't even come with it. And I will stand on exactly how I worded that. The game itself does not come with it, because if you have the game digitally, do you really have the game? We won't get into that rabbit hole, but that is something else we've discussed, right, in terms of the digital versus physical. But now it's a trend. That was a trend. Paying $5 to $10 to play the game 3 days early, that was something that was kind of a rogue idea, and now it's become that every game I'm playing, single player, multiplayer, whatever, is now doing. Everybody is doing, paying for that almost, again, fear of missing out idea. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to play the game, or you do want to play the game 3 days early, like all your friends, like all the people online. Well, if you want to do it, you got to give us an extra $10, right? And maybe it'll go higher, by the way, in the future. That was something that was started. It became a trend. Now everybody does it. What do you think this is? I really believe, even though, again, right now it's, okay, well, this game does it. Well, that game. Well, not every game does it, but some games are popping up here and there. Well, what does that lead to? It leads to everybody doing it, right? And I think even Black Myth Wukong that comes out next, it's the first big game of the fall. That game, I believe, they're also only, aren't they? I don't know 1,000%. Pretty darn sure that they're only doing digital, and they'll do physical later, and they don't even say when later is. So, yeah, it's just fantastic. It's just freaking fantastic. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Again, it started more as like a rant thing where Lollipop Chainsaw was like, well, now you're putting me in a pickle. It's a tough spot, because it's like, I want to cover it. I want to make videos. I also want to play it. And honestly, I thought maybe you would just let me get the physical version day one, because I would have done that. I want the physical. If I had a preferred thing, and look, I have a lot of physical games, but also when new games come out, I actually get most new games digitally. And my kind of plan in my head is, well, look, I'm collecting the PS2 era, Xbox era, PS3, 360, like, you know, a lot of these, 2-3 gens ago, right? Those are the eras of games that I'm collecting. I want as many of those games as possible, and then I'll move forward. Then I'm going to start getting physical games of Xbox One and PS4, and I'll move up. That's my plan in my head. Maybe that's a bad plan, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. But for a game like Lollipop Chainsaw, because of its history, because of limited run, all that stuff, I wanted it physically right away. I'd like it day one. And you know what? Most games, you can still do that. Star Wars Outlaws, you can get day one, right? It'll come to you from Amazon, whatever. You might get it like at night that day one, but you'll still get it, right? And you'll still be able to play it. But for a Lollipop Chainsaw, okay, now I got to wait 3 freaking months for a game with its kind of history, or I just buy it the first time and the only time. I'm not going to spend $110 or whatever it might be with tax, right? I'm not going to spend $100+ to get Lollipop Chainsaw twice. I guess, I'm in a situation where if I really, really want it, then I would have to get it digitally right away. And then you pray to God that the game doesn't go up, it actually goes down. And then 3-4 years from now, maybe I spend $20-$30 and I guess I saved a little money because I still kind of bought it twice, but I bought it on a discount. But again, for a game like that, I don't think that's going to happen. I think because of the cult status of it, I think because of the limited run status. Now, maybe Dead Rising would be different, right? Maybe Dead Rising's a slightly not as bad example, but Lollipop Chainsaw makes me mad. So just kind of wanted to float that out there. I like these discussion videos. You see the background. It's always the background I choose for the discussion videos. You let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.